Welcome to a instructional video on how to reassemble a Corpuls C3 slim defibrillator from pretty much the ground up. I'm not counting these two little bits, it's one screw, you can figure that out. Now obviously we're starting with no battery. It's quite important when we're messing around with electronic things. We're literally starting from the ground up. So first off, we want to start with our charging assembly. We've got our mag, connector, Pro Mag, what it is, it's got a name, I can't remember what it is, but I'm going to call it MagSafe probably. We got that port. That's it to the bottom of the machine, that's what we plug it into. Got the little magnetic interference ferrule, the actual charging board itself, and the connector to the motherboard, to this main board. We start by inserting the charging board connector first through the bottom port of the machine, gently pulling it all through, like so, ending up with the MagSafe port just finger tight pushed in. Doesn't need to be perfect, I'm not going to tighten it down just yet. Next, there is in this the camera. In this there is a little space here. There we want the ferrule to sit. There's a little spot, it should sit nice and snug. Be happy there. We then want to gently run these cables up and over, and we want to push the charging board down into this little gap here, coppery bit first as it were, so the back of the board is against the bottom of the battery compartment, like so. There might be little plasticky bits that the board slides into, if they are there and you can put them in it, great. They tend to break off, so don't worry too much. Okay, so our charging board's snug down there, the cables are roughly in place, and our port is in place. Next, we get a little plastic cover. This sits on top with the longer, wider side on the bottom of the machine, and this just slides in here and covers the ferrule and the wires down there, like so. Next we take our capacitor. This is the thing we want to be most careful with. That's the thing that delivers the shock, so we want to be gentle. We want to slide this with the two wires coming in the end and the PCB facing the bottom here. Gently slide that in. Try and just wrangle it in without damaging any of the wires that come out of it. Just gently trying to slide it into place. Come on, you bugger. In you go. Might need to give it a bit of a push, but it should. It worked so well on the last machine. Go on. There we go. Bit fiddly, had to get him a lap, but the wires should slip down. There's a little thing here, it should slip under that. It should sit nice and snug, like so. Making sure that we've got all three connectors available for later. Next, you want to put the hole down in, little plastic bit here, So we've got this little wedgy bit and this little, I don't know, words escape me, but that sits like so. It just holds the capacitor in place. So we want to take our 2 screws. If you're using this as a disassembly thing, and you've got this far and you haven't been putting all your screws in a piece of cardboard like this, where you've drawn out the shape of the machine. So I've got all the outside screws there, and then the other side I have equivalent all the inside screws. If you haven't been doing that, I'd try and start properly, try and work your way back, because it's very useful when you come to reassemble the machine like we're doing now, and not end up with 3 different screws, no idea where any of them go, because if you put them in the wrong place and they go too far, you can either break the case or you can puncture the main board, cause shorts, stuff like that. So if you haven't been doing that, well done. If you haven't been, try and do it pronto. So now we've got that secure and in place, we want to find the main board, wherever I put it. Here we are. So let us plug in these connectors. One, two, making sure we're listening for a click, making sure we can visually see everything in as far as it goes, and 3. Lovely. Okay, and then now as we gently lay this board down, we want to take care, make sure all these connectors go in nicely, but also make sure that here, because under this is all the, you can see there, all the through connectors for the defib pads, the therapy cables to plug into, making sure that that goes in nice and straight. Here we go. Shouldn't have to force it too much, it should just slide down there nicely. We're going to take the secondary part of the board, and there's 2 little plastic posts, 2 accompanying holes, not the one surrounded with copper, that should just slip on like that. There we go. And then we plug the pads cable into it. Make sure that is lined up. Lovely. Plug the therapy cable in, the connector there, making sure it's forming this nice Z. And it should look, focus you fuck, there we go, it should look as so. The camera focus doesn't really know what to do with this off, does it? Fine. Now, carrying on, we next want to using our magic cardboard, we want to replace all of the screws that we took out previously, making sure to use the washers that came out with them. I like to get them all in, just so they're threaded in I can do it with my fingers, so I'm not over tightening anything, or I'm not cross-threading anything either. Now, you may have noticed that I got one of these wrong. However, I do know that these are all the same in my machine. However, do as I say. What does I do? Tighten that one down because it's easier. Under the plastic. Okay, let me go down all the way around. Tighten them. Don't want to be absolutely cranking them down to within an inch of their life. It's only into small brass threads which are into plastic, and you will either strip the threads out or you'll break the plastic, and no one wants that, because although it might not destroy the board, it will just generally compromise the integrity of your machine. Now, just a quick note with regards to the screw here, just above the charging port. Now here, there's a connector for a speaker. My model doesn't have that. However, if it did, on this front panel here, there'd be a speaker around here and a cable that came off of it. There would also be a small little plasticky bit that sits here. It has a little hole, screws into, which just goes in under this screw here, and that would have a little clip to hold a small ferrule for the wire, and then the wire would then go into this connector here. Now, again, my model doesn't have that, so I'm going to be ignoring that, but just before you tighten this screw down, if your model does have that, make sure you install the little white plasticky bit ready for when we reinstall the faceboard there. Now, everything's tightened down, we can clip in our charging connector. Okay, making sure we hear a nice click. It's pushed in nice and heartily. They do like to arc out if they're too loose here. Now, what it might be worth doing, just very quickly, I know I'm going to do it just for my own peace of mind, because I am actually fixing this machine. So I'm going to put a battery in, and I can see there's a green. Can you see that under the light? Basically, there's a green light there. There you go. Fucking focus, you fuck. You know, good enough rock and roll. You can see the green light that's there. That means the machine's on. Now, I'm going to press the button. Press and hold that. Green light turns off, so the machine's now off. I'm going to get my definitely not homemade janky connector. And I'm going to say, please don't blow up 3, 2, 1. Woohoo! Now again, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but there is opposite little charging light there. Lovely. That is good to see. Okay, now we've confirmed that it is definitely taking a charge, and we're happy with that. We're going to take off our power cable, and we're also going to disconnect and remove the battery. Save that for later. Next, we get this little piece here. See, it's got these little combs, as it were. These slot themselves over the cables of the connector between the power board and the main PCB, and then this screws into this point here. And what that does is it holds or is meant to hold the charging board connector to the main PCB and keep it from shorting out. How good of a job it does, well, I won't discuss that. Next we want to put the earthing point in. That goes in this little point in the side next to the battery port. Now in that hole, you might be able to see that on camera. I can see it on mine, but whether you will see it on yours, you know. Yeah, you can see that. Okay. In there is a hex, and that lines up with the hex shank on this earthing point. Which means that when you push it all the way in, and it's in that hex, you can tighten things down and not have to hold it on the other end. Now, we want to put our earthing point into its place, so you can see a bit of bolt sticking out here. I'm going to put the larger, thicker silver washer over it, and for me I'm also going to get the other nut. I'm going to push it just on there, just so it's over the top, and I'm going to push it up against the edge of this, and then I just can take this, push it back through its hole, and then I can thread it in as I just hold that in. That starts the thread on that, makes it a lot easier in my experience. Then once it's on, you can push that in, get it into its hex, and just spin that down. Then want to tighten that down with either a spanner of the right side, or because I can't be bothered to get the spanner, I'm just using a pair of pliers. We then want to get this little earthing wire here, put that over the bolt, get the small thinner washer, put that over it, and then get the second nut, put that over it, and hopefully get that tightened down without dropping it. Lovely. Nice and easy. Again, I'm going to tighten that down, and again it doesn't have to be tightened within an inch of its life, just has to be tight enough to hold itself into place when the machine is operational. Okay, it's nice and solid. Shouldn't be able to move that around with my finger at all. Happy days. Okay, at this point we are replacing the main cover. So again, if your model has a speaker here, then there'll be a wire that should clip into a little piece of plastic. The ferrule should clip into a piece of plastic that is meant to be mounted here, if again it's in your model, and then the cable just plugs into this little connector here. Otherwise that doesn't happen here. The connector that is on everyone is this little flat cable here. This is the little right angle cable, and it's very fiddly to do, so it's normally actually best to hold. For the camera to see stuff, I'd hold it like that. However, I can't actually see what I'm doing, so I'm going to hold it so I can see in line with the connector, and even then it's fiddly. Okay, now that's in. There's two little arms that should hopefully have clipped shut. Just push those together. Doesn't have to be hard, it's just as long as they're not, there's nothing, no further movement. We are happy with that. Fine. We then can close the machine now. Trying to. Right, I have actually tightened this down in the wrong place. Just loosen this enough to move the. Come on. This is why a spanner would be easier. Okay, just so that's out of the way for this metal post to slide down, which was then part of the things that screw into. Down it slides, taking care not to pinch any cables, not that there's many. Okay. You should be able to just, with your fingers, gently pressing, you should be able to press it and there'll be no gaps or anything like that, no major gaps. If there is gaps, something's probably caught. Take it apart, give it a check. Then turn it over, And we, again using our lovely useful piece of cardboard, put all our screws back in. Like this. Then once we've tightened all our screws down, we can then clip this port back into its rightful place. Just push it in like that. We then take little screws. I've kept these to the other side. I haven't put them in my special piece of cardboard just because I know exactly what they are. Although I can't seem to thread them in. There we go. It. And again, once we've got all 4 of those in there, tighten them down, not within an inch of the knife, just enough that they are holding, and you can get them back out again. Otherwise, that, I'm not going to tip it too far because I still haven't screwed all these things back in, but that is how to reassemble a Corpuls C3 slim defibrillator.